Okay, so today we're going to build some data that simulates data from a scan of a composite panel. We'll put some flaws in it, we'll annotate the flaws, we'll tile up the data sets for machine learning and label the tiles so that we're all ready to go to put it in a classifier. So let's start with the data manager. We add a data set, add a build data set, stuff we've done before. So I'll go quickly. 2 scan axes, about 1,000 points on X, 500 on Y, millimeters, and we need to do one subset, and I think that will get us some data. Okay. Oh, that I dropped in the recycle bin, and it warned me because I missed my drop. Now I'll drop it on the desktop. Okay. So I'm not going to go build the script live for the build data set. I'm just going to copy it in, and we'll run that, and we've got the panel there. Now remember, with the build data set, always put your objects on the build, not the data set. So I put my palette there, and the palette, everything gets pushed when you run. Okay, so there we go. We've got a background imitating various levels, maybe some ribs going through the panel, and I'm going to put the flaws in. So I'm going to do that with the C#. So user defined node, and add the C# compiler on there, and we're going to drop that little thing there, which is the thing that does the work. It's the data injector, and we're going to use this one later, and we'll drop that one on. Okay, so I'm just again going to copy my code over because it would take a little while to write this, not that long, but 10 minutes or whatever. And I'll just go through what's been done. I'm going to see that it compiles, and it's happy. Remember, we over here on the user-defined node, we need to select the executable class, and I'm going to run that, and I got some flaws there. Oh, I think I want to do something on here. I'm going to put this down to the min value to 0 because those ones aren't showing up very strongly on the build data set. Run that, and run that, and that looks good. Okay, so let's go over the C#. So we grab the data injector and the data set as source objects to node. Remember, node is this user-defined node. And then we get a random number generator, and we start by deleting all objects of type box. I'm going to point out this format here. Now, when you delete it, you just need to put the type name in there. So the type of these things that I'm getting rid of at the start is box. But if you do iw.types.box, it'll complain if you get it wrong. It'll assert. Whereas if you just type in boxes incorrectly, it'll just not work and you won't know as easily. So it's a nicety. It doesn't matter that much, but it is cleaner to use. So random number between 18 and 35 indications, and the peak is just, I'm doing negative numbers. They're dropouts, these indications, so between 10 and 20% negative. And then X start, X length, Y start, Y length. And this task here, remember, this one has all these tasks here to push into the data set that it's connected to, and that's this task here. Now just a little tip that I'm going to pin my C#, is that if you ever have a task and you drag it onto the C#, it doesn't look like it does anything, but it actually copies the name of the task as a method on there. This one we're calling by name. You can just do it by order if you want, but that's a good little tip to have. Saves you quite a bit. Okay, so this is the injector thing, injecting the data in our flaws. Next, we create a box, which is this annotation here, that box, and we size it with the properties, and then you need to rebuild the annotations at the end. So that's pretty simple. You're creating some random numbers, making a region, putting a box around it, and we've got our flaws, and they're labeled. So I'm just going to make a sequence that does this. So I'm going to put the execute on there, and I'm going to put the, you know what, I can just move this whole node in there, and then as I run this node, it generates more flaws. Okay, so next we want to tile and label. So extract 2D tiles, we'll put that on the data set, and what that does is it goes in, it makes tiles of these numbers, this one and this one, so 32 by 32, and steps it by 16 points. And see, we're not using, because it doesn't have a third axis, so I'm going to put these up to 64 because that fits our tile size. I can leave that. And if I run this node, I threw it in the bin by mistake. Doesn't matter, you can get it out with the restore. And there we go, we have a lot of tiles. You can see some of them have the indications in them. And how many do we have? We have 1,700. Okay, so next we want to add some information to these tiles. And so the known values are, you'll see what they are. So x start, y start, x end, y end. So we know the dimensions of the tiles. And if we run that again, you can see this subset is added. Now this subset can be viewed as a table, so the node to do that is view data as tables. Put that on there, and F5 to run, shift double click, and we see where all the tiles are. Okay, so now we know these are where our 1,700 tiles are. So now we want to say, do they have an indication in them? So what we do is we type box, and you'll see why. We'll add another. There's known column values, and that's where these come from, and then other ones it'll just say, I don't know what it is, and it'll leave it blank, and we'll be filling it in. You'll see that in a second. Okay, so some more. Trickery here. We add an annotation table. That the data set drops on that, and now we have another table here that is the box dimensions. So x start, length, and width of our how many ever indications we've added. And then we get a cool little function. We do set fills from annotation table. So I'll do this, maybe I'll do this one over here. The annotation table, I'm just going to go here, do copy path so it knows where that is. I think that one comes in as box. And we press No, we press execute on this one, and hopefully that works. It complains. So I think what we need to do is we need to run this again, because I hadn't run it since I put box in. We've got our empty column. Let's give that an F5, and that seems to be happy. And yeah, we've got our tiles, which are mostly zeros as you'd expect, and a bunch of ones. The ones saying I have one of those annotations inside me, or sometimes you could get, presumably this one will show two. Okay, so we're getting there. So we've got tiles, we've got them labeled, and all we need to do now is save them. So we'll do save data file. I'm going to put two of these on here. So the first one, I'm going to drag the data set on. You know what, I'm going to delete this and then get this one set up. And I'm going to do path. Yeah, that looks good. Path InspectionWare 12. Test panel, that looks good. Change this to specified file and call it the data. And add index, because we're going to do a bunch of them. And then I'm going to just copy that, drag with control, and I'm going to put the tiles on that one. Okay, and we'll just put the tiles. Okay, just so we have the tiles separately. And we've got the index, auto index. Okay, and now we are going to clean up a bit here. We're going to go to this sequence and say we don't want to run it once, we want to loop by index. And 1 to 11 will give us, or 0 to 11 will give us 12 things, and let's run this and see what happens. Okay, that looks good. I'll bring up my folder, and we've got 12 of each, and let's just drop one of those out on the desktop here. That looks good for that one. I'll delete it, and let's just check that the tiles are happy. So do the tiles, and that looks like what we expect there. Run through that, discard, and finally, just as a final check, I will put a view data as tables on the tiles, and I think that needs an execute, so F5 shift, and that one needs a load data. When the subsets are sort of that lighter color, the data's not loaded, so you just need to load it. So it looks like we're in good shape. And I think that's done for this video. So we're ready for data that we can train in various ways. Okay, have a good day now.